Thank you. Good afternoon, Prime Minister. Question first to Professor Van-Tam and to Patrick. You mentioned there the transmissibility of people who've had the vaccine. Exactly what I wanted to ask you about. Can you tell us what you know so far about whether people are able still to transmit the virus once they've had that first dose from studies abroad and perhaps some of your own studies? I believe you're doing some work on it yourself, Professor Van-Tam. The Israeli Health Ministry say as much as 6% less likely to transmit the virus. And if that's true, what effect would that have on the pace of the unlock? Presumably it would really speed it up. And Prime Minister, can I ask you, how did you come to the date of March the 8th for what you've said is your hope for schools to start reopening? You do have a reputation for optimism, that's no insult, but parents are going to be hanging on that, as you well know. It's 5.5 weeks away. They're going to be incredibly disappointed if they don't see schools reopen from March the 8th, as also you well know. So might not be wiser, if a little bit miserable, to just wait until you were sure?
We'll go first on the transmissibility point.
Okay, so look, I don't think there are clear data on the extent to which vaccines will reduce transmission at this point in time. There are multiple studies underway, predominantly conducted by Public Health England in the UK, to look at this, and I think we will get those data over time. I think as scientists we believe on first principles that vaccines with the very high levels of effectiveness that we are seeing from the clinical trials really couldn't fail to have some effect on transmission. And the question is really less will they, but to what extent. And I think when we have clarity on the extent, that will then open up a whole range of further questions about the future deployment of vaccines after the JCVI priority groups 1 to 9 are completed, about how vaccines might play a role in keeping transmission low in the UK. But these are questions for the future, and I just can't give you any clear data on that at the moment.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, there's going to be some effect on transmissibility. You don't have vaccines of this degree of efficacy without there being some effect, but we can't put a number on it at the moment. I think it's really important that as these are rolled out across the world, we monitor and understand that. And Israel started doing that, and they're beginning to get some data out. They've said they're not going to have any firm data for a few weeks yet, and we're going to be in the same position. We're going to have firmer data. But these are important questions because, as Jonathan says, it will also determine to what extent these vaccines can be used across the wider society to reduce transmission overall.
Thanks. And Tom, on your point about schools, of course you're absolutely right. On the other hand, opening schools is a huge priority for us all, for the country, for parents up and down the land. And what we're saying is that March the 8th is the earliest date by which we think we might responsibly be able to do that, given what we know now. But it does depend on all those things going right in the way that I described. So the vaccine rollout has to continue to be successful as it currently is. We have to see evidence that that those graphs are coming down and that we're making progress. The vaccines are working, as Patrick has said, in reducing mortality and serious disease. We need to see that our vaccines are actually working for people, and we need to make sure that the infection rate is in the right place, and that we're continuing as a country to work together to drive it down by the means that we're currently using. We're going to keep it all under constant review, particularly obviously on February the 15th, when we'll know whether we've hit our target of getting those most vulnerable groups vaccinated. Thanks, Tom. Jim Pickard, FT.
Prime Minister, question about the row between AstraZeneca and the European Union. For us